been amazing in the last 4 years is that we've seen...
Yes.
We've seen a reduction in evictions from the council. We've got ethical bailiffs. I mean, it's amazing. We've got this brilliant partnership with Hammersmith and Fulham Council, but the downside is the legal aid's gone down because we're not taking those cases anymore. Anyway, here's Stephen.
I would just say, when we were in opposition, because it can be a tireless thing, it did at times feel very desperate. And what sort of kept us here was the number of people who were more desperate than us. And knowing that with people like you and people in the refugee centre and people in food banks and working on homelessness, all of those people were doing their best to hold what we call this civilization together and protect the most vulnerable. So we could never walk away. But we always said if ever we won control and the public gave us the opportunity to do something with any power that they bequeath to us in an election, that it's a waste of time being in that position unless you're going to try and do huge things. And that's what this administration is about. For me, it was a huge and right thing to be the first people we met to the law centre and said, what do you need? How much money do you need? How do we keep you safe for maybe 10 years?
We should have asked them more.
You know what? So you should have asked them more, and I told her that at the time. No, you asked them more than enough. So you did in the end. We did get you to do that in the end. But that's why this is such an important event for us. So as long as you're here, we're going to be here. And whether it's fighting to save child refugees in Europe, or whether it's finding new ways to end homelessness, this blight on our society forever, or tackling ways to deal with the increases in poverty, or whether it's just providing the first line of defence with the best possible legal support, you will find a very strong partner and friend in us for as long as we're here. It's a great privilege. Thank you for asking me to speak, and have a wonderful time over the next 10 years of funding.
So my next speaker, it's probably a little known fact to most that Jan Luber was one of the first volunteers at this law centre. Where is he?
Over here.
You're on next.
I came here as an employment volunteer at a time when the law centre, as ever, was doing something innovative. It decided that employment advice should be given not just by lawyers and legal advisors, but also by local representatives of the Trades Council. And this ensured that the workers that we saw got not only legal advice, but also practical advice about their rights as trade union members or their rights to join trade unions. They sound like such different times. They were different times. And for those of you who perhaps weren't born in 1979 or still at school, let me just paint a picture for you of what it was like if somebody came in with an employment problem or a housing problem and the law centre worker needed to do something about it. First of all, what would happen today? Somebody would come in and say, I've got this complex legal problem, and what would the advice worker do? They would swivel in their chair and hit their keyboard and look up the problem with a dear friend called Google. 1979, there wasn't an internet. There were no mobile phones. Swiveling around to write a letter to an employer or perhaps state authorities involved taking out 3 sheets of white paper and inserting between them 2 blue pieces of something called carbon paper and then rolling them into a machine. Most of my clients at that time, and the law centre's clients at that time, seeking to contact their employer or the local job centre or whatever, needed coins in order to use a telephone. Because they didn't have a telephone, nobody had a mobile phone because they'd not been invented, and litigation was conducted, certainly on the part of volunteers at the law centre, by going to a phone box with a very large number of coins in order to phone the opposition and have a discussion. That's how it was. Against that environment, this law centre thrived, and it is fantastic it's here today, going on to the next stage, and you are here to share in that process. Well done, the law centre. Thank you very much.
Next up. So Andy has been a lifelong friend of the Law Centre. and an MP, I think, in Hammersmith since 2010. And before that, it was the different, it's Acton, Shepherd's Bush. Yeah, they are. But it's that connection, though, isn't it? Because you are a very popular MP. And I've met lots of
You written that down.
ad-libbing that. But an absolute massive supporter, and it's always brilliant that he comes out on the walk and walks with us. And we have a win-win situation where it's a good photo opportunity, isn't it? I get loads of emails from people saying, this is going to happen in Parliament, you need to tell your MP, and I think I never need to tell him, because he already knows. So it's brilliant.
You know, pompous lawyers would say this was a golden thread or something like that, wouldn't they? Between the very highest level here and between the absolute necessary service given to people who have nowhere else to go. One of the things, I don't escape the Jan's files, but the Sue handed me earlier on, the 1991 letter from Tony Scrivener, who was then the chairman of the bar and also acting for Hammersmith from the council in the capital markets case. That's another rather long story. In which he says, one of the things he says in praising law centres is law centres fill the gap where there's no legal aid. 1991, he didn't know. And sadly, one of the worst things I've had to do in Parliament is lead the opposition in the opposition to what's called the Laspo Bill, which has taken away legal aid from the majority of people who need it. And that's a shameful thing, which I hope the future Labour government will reverse. But in the meantime, we do what we can, and the law centre here has always done what it can. But let's be honest, that's been difficult in recent years, from every point. So just to have these premises, these modest premises, I'd see every other law centre here going, and to have the security of funding on which they can build and do more. To get back, as we say, to the days when actually anybody could walk in the door, with many different types of problems, housing, employment, debt, and other issues like that. And despite the lack of it could be seen, that's a fantastic thing to be able to celebrate. Sue, about her Legal Aid Lawyer of the Year last year. There is recognition out there. There are good people there who will see that this is an absolutely essential thing. It's not a luxury, it's not a bolt-on, it's like a little voluntary sector addition. It's absolutely bread and butter and essential to people's lives, to my constituents' lives. I couldn't survive without it. I just want to say thank you. I'm so grateful to be associated with you for the last 30 years. I'm a novice, John, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again.
And talking of speeches and Legal Aid Lawyer of the Year, one of the things I said last year was the great thing about law centres is you can get to go from the food bank to the Supreme Court. And that leads very nicely into my next speaker. Amazing that we have you with that picture. I'm so grateful.
Well, number one thing to say, Sue, when I go back home, I will see if I have a spare copy of the first edition of Mental Health by the then Brenda Hoggett, and it's yours. The last thing I wanted to say, when I was thinking about what to say, was if you're not coming on the walk, you must. If you can't come on the walk, sponsor somebody.
You can do that tonight.
Yeah. Because I've got divided loyalties here, because I either walk for Hammersmith and Fulham Law Centre, or I walk for Team Supreme. I've got both t-shirts, so we'll see what happens on Monday. But it is a terrific thing, the London Legal Walk, and the legal walks that happen all over the country. It is terrific, it's great that it's done, it's really important that it's done, it's a tragedy that it has to be done. Can we all agree on that? Frank was. Lord Reed is not the most radical member of our court by any means, but he, like all of us, really believes in access to justice and the rule of law and the huge importance of the rule of law, which means people should be able to take their cases to court or defend the cases that are brought against them. And that is not just for the benefit of those people, it's for the benefit of everybody. All of us in this room, we may never actually personally be sued or want to sue. Maybe we will, but mostly we won't. But we still need to have a functioning justice system. Because without that, people won't have the confidence to know that responsibilities will be honoured, rights will be vindicated, and in particular, that public authorities will behave properly. Now, I'm quite sure that Hammersmith fully behaves properly at all times. The leader has assured me of this. But you know exactly what I mean. It's really, really important. And it's particularly important in all those everyday areas of life. And that is why LASPO was so damaging. Now, we haven't had a go at LASPO. We may never be able to have a go at LASPO because access to lawyers is very different from access to the courts. So we can have a go at legal fees, tribunal fees, court fees, but it is much harder for us actually to challenge restrictions on access to lawyers. And you'll understand that. And so you'll forgive us if we get it wrong, if it ever comes our way. But what struck me about LASPO that was so unfortunate was that it took these whole areas out of scope altogether. Now, most problems don't actually need to go to court. Most of the problems that come your way, once you can lift a phone or write a letter, or just give a little bit of advice, it can get sorted. But under this, you have to wait until everything's become a complete disaster before you actually have the opportunity of even handling those cases. And I simply do not understand how anybody didn't realise that. I just don't understand it. Of course, the other big problem with it is that saved the Ministry of Justice a lot of money. The pieces are being picked up by other departments of state who are having to cope with the fact. And so if the Ministry of Justice spends more money, it's not going to save them any money. So I don't know what the answer to that is. Maybe a Member of Parliament can think out the answers to it. In the meantime, the rest of us in this room are doing our absolute utmost to try and solve the problems. And we know that problems don't come singly. They come, most people with a problem have got about 3 or 4 or 5. You know, and that's why a law centre is so wonderful, because you can look at each of the aspects of a problem. Because otherwise they come so fragmented, and it's wonderful that you have got the opportunity in a place like this. So it is great to see. I was thinking what I was doing in 1979 was, well, I was teaching law at Manchester University. Yes, I did that for quite a long time, and it was wonderful. And we were just establishing the Journal of Social Welfare Law. Started in 1978, so 40 years ago this year. Because that, along with the Lag Bulletin, so we have Steve here from the Legal Action Group, put social welfare law on the map, made it respectable, made it something that people needed to know, and it's still there, it's still on the map, people still need to know it. And so we can think there have been some good things. Oh, and His Honour Jan Luber is a good thing too. But there we go. Congratulations to you, and congratulations for everything that you have managed to do. I'm honoured to be your patron, which is a very honorary role, in which I have to do nothing very much. To be here today has been a real privilege, and congratulations for having this lovely setup, which I think is absolutely perfect. So thank you.
Thank you. One thing that you didn't know about Lady Hale that I found out through interviewing the first director of LAG is that Lady Hale saved LAG. Because she used to come down from Manchester and deliver lectures and then travel back up again. And Susan Smedley said,
Marsden Smedley.
said, Lady Hale saved LAG.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. No. There are lots of us. But anyway.
Something for you.
Yes. So I'd like to say thank you very much for coming to the opening of our new premises at the Law Centre and for being our patron for so many years.
Well,
And that's
really.
and it is an honour to have you here. And thank you to the rest of our speakers who came along today, to Andy and Stephen and Jan, who was one of the first volunteers at the Law Centre. Thank you to everybody else who came to support us. And most of all, a big thank you to all the staff for all the wonderful work they do here for our high.